Hi, welcome back to Cardinal Territory. It's Tuesday. I almost forgot what day it was. The Cardinals snapped a 5-game losing streak against the Miami Marlins Monday night. They won 8-3, took advantage of a pretty sloppy game from the Marlins defensively, but really a strong offensive showing across the board in terms of quality of at-bats, selection, and just all around a good offensive game. It was much needed after the homestand. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory, coming to you from the media workroom at Lone Depot Park. Katie is here. Bernie is here. Bernie, how are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you again. Yeah, you ought to set up out there. You should have set up in the outfield somewhere. Nobody's sitting out there. You could like in the outfield seats.
That was right? my second thought. But as we were about to record, it was going to be like during starting lineup announcements and the national anthem. So even though they're like, I think the official attendance yesterday was like under 9,000, it would be like the one time during this game that it was actually going to be noisy. So media workroom it is.
Okay, sounds good. We'll roll.
All right, so a couple of housekeeping items. First, we talked to Nolan Arenado today in the dugout of the Marlins Stadium, and he, as we know, is working out in Jupiter at the Cardinal Spring Training Complex and says that he is getting closer and closer to being pain-free in that right shoulder, is hopeful that he'll be able to start taking swings on Friday and begin a throwing program on Monday. He's right now just doing strength and conditioning, meeting with personal trainers out in Jupiter, but again, hoping by Friday to resume baseball activities from the offensive side and start that throwing program next week. Still no timetable for Nolan's return, but both he and the team are optimistic and, dare I say, confident that he will return at some point at the end of the season. He is one of 3 players, of course, on the injured list. Victor Scott II went on Sunday with that left ankle sprain. Brendan Donovan hits the IL, which brings us to our first topic of the day, Bernie. Jose Fermin is up. He's actually here. Cardinals are playing with a full roster today. Full active roster for the St. Louis Cardinals. Round of applause. Took them a while. Took them about over a week to do so.
How about that? Yeah.
And no knock on Jose Fermin, of course, but at this point of the season, with rookie eligibility status being able to be saved until 2026, the big question from the fan base is if Brendan Donovan is on the IL, where is JJ Wetherholt? Bernie, you had Cardinals manager Ollie Marmol on your show today on KMOX, the Gas House Gang. JJ Wetherholt was a topic. What was your takeaway for that answer?
This will sound stupid, but I don't even remember what he said. I don't think he really said anything of magnitude. I think he was, it's not his decision. So I think he was just trying to be diplomatic and, not jump into that pool, So what he said, though, and he has told you and everyone else this repeatedly, he's very, very, very impressed. Everything to do with JJ Wetherholt, including, his demeanor, his professionalism, the way he conducts himself. The other players in camp really respected him and liked him. So I think Ollie's got the full embrace for JJ Wetherholt, but it's not his call. It's the front office call, and he understands that. And what are you going to do? The manager does not get to make the decisions on who they're going to put on the 40-man roster.
Correct. And this is something that maybe it's a little difficult because we have essentially 2 front offices in charge of this decision. John Mozeliak is still doing the 40-man roster decisions until the end of the season, but starting JJ Wetherholt's service time, starting his clock, if you will, is a Chaim Bloom decision. And it's not like the Cardinals have to add JJ to the 40-man roster. It's not a protection year for him. It is a protection year for several other players in the organization. And I know that's not the answer the fans want to hear, but it does absolutely factor into these kinds of decisions. We actually talked to JJ last week. He was named over the weekend the Cardinals Player of the Month in the minor leagues for the month of July. And there are some things that the organization still wants him to work on, namely being more time at third base. He was like, I haven't really played third base since my freshman year of college. It's still pretty new to me. I'm playing there about twice a week. We're going to see where it goes. And that's important because as you look towards 2026, there are a lot of holes about what that infield looks like. You have a third baseman right now, and Nolan Arenado on the roster. No guarantee he's back in 2026. Nolan Gorman, and I'm sure we'll get to him, Bernie. I know that you've had some things to say about Gorman, has looked great at the plate, but not so much at the hot corner.
Right.
Could third base be a place for JJ next year? I think that's a question that the Cardinals are trying to figure out. So he needs to find those reps at third in Memphis right now. Now he can play around the diamond. He's a talented enough athlete to be able to do so. I don't think anyone is really concerned over JJ Wetherholt's overall athleticism, but there are reasons why he's still in AAA. I understand it's not the popular answer. It's not the answer fans want to hear. I mean, he's club 9 homers for Memphis. He has an OPS over 1,000. He is the true talent. I think we sometimes, as a fan base, as an industry, as St. Louis media, tend to overhype prospects There is a difference between a first round, second round draft pick and a top 10 draft pick. And that's what makes JJ Wetherholt, the alert, even more exciting there. But not yet time to see him. And the answer, I get this a lot, Bernie, I'm sure you do too. The big question that we get from fans is, well, right around this time, the Cardinals called up Mason Wynn. And it's true. I think yesterday was the date of Mason Wynn's major league debut in 2023. Right around the same time, teams at different record, but kind of the same, focusing on the future, focusing on the rebuild. You could call him up and get him everyday reps. I think it's a little different from the Mason Wynn situation because in 2023, the Cardinals didn't have to a lot of 40-man protection moves they had to make. In fact, they non-tenured a ton of guys at the end of that season, so they could allow Mason Wynn to get on the 40-man. I'm not sure that's the case this year. It's the boring answer. Fans are going to roll their eyes. I get it. But it is one that an organization has to consider from the business side of things. Do I like it? No. I want to see JJ Wetherholt. But this is not something that we can just do based on this player's ready. Maybe not. Let's bring him up. Obviously, other things are going to factor into this decision.
Yeah, a couple things. I totally get I totally understand where the team's coming from on this. I try to understand things because I want to be fair. But I was just doing a simple exercise with a couple of my friends, a couple of whom follow the Cardinals closely and actually do some media work. And we were going through their 40-man roster, and we were also looking at minor league players that they have to add. And we all agreed that, yeah, it's easy for us to say it can be done. It's really not a crisis. And I really think it could be done, and I don't think it's a crisis. I think they can make those cuts, so they can sort of mentally remove certain guys, and there'd be plenty of room to add JJ Wetherholt. But again, it's easy for me to say. It's easy for you to say. But I'm a little baffled why they're hung up on this. I do think, though, once again, me trying to be fair, I do think, though, that John Mozeliak wants to keep everything clean for Chaim Bloom and his people and all the minor league people, because they may have a whole different view of some of these prospects, and they may be the ones telling him, we'd rather keep this clean for now, because we think there's some guys there that are a little under the radar we have to add, and we really don't want to risk losing them. Now, that could be, I don't want to say crying wolf, but it may not be as urgent as that. But I do understand on principle why John Mozeliak would want to keep that spot open, just to keep it nice and clean for the Bloom regime when they take over. So I don't know. Katie, you've covered the team since 2021, right? I believe right. So. Why do the Cardinals always have to make everything so complicated? I mean, that's the bigger thing, where it's like it just never ends. Just like with whether you put someone on the IL or not, and whether you do this and whether you do that, you're playing shorthanded. It's like, why is it always almost like a self-created issue that, where there's drama thrown in where there should be no drama? I don't think the new regime will be like this. I don't. But
I hope not.
The Cardinals are amazing to me, the way they overcomplicate everything. And, and if you don't mind me throwing this in, before you got here, I used to make fun. And I think Derek Gould and some others would get irritated with me. I used to make fun of just like, why is this like splitting the atom? Because all we ever hear, and this preceded your arrival, all we ever hear all the time is like, well, they got to keep spots open on the 40-man. Or it's like, oh, no, you can't bring him up because then, you'd have to put him on the 40-man. And I always joke and say, are the Cardinals all that talented where they have more great talent than they know what to do with? Are you kidding me? It's easy to find a 40-man spot for a talented player. And so that's why I'm cranky about it, because I've been listening to this nonsense for years and years and years and years. And it just, again, they love to make things overly complicated. I don't know why, but they do.
I think of all the criticisms of the Cardinals organization over the last 5-6 years, the 40-man roster construction is the most fair one. I've said it on the last couple of shows. It's one thing that has baffled me since arriving on the beat is how it's managed. And there are obviously things that are going on behind the scenes that I'm not aware of or, again, don't understand. But yes, how the Cardinals have navigated the 40-man roster has directly correlated to where they are right now, aka not in a good place. And it will be on the new front office, the Chaim Bloom era, to start making those changes. Got a lot of work to do in front of that. Bernie, we'll be right back here on Cardinal Territory. First, though, we got to get a quick message from our sponsors and our pals at DraftKings. The dog days of summer are here, and in Missouri, that means it's baseball season in full swing. Whether you're up in Kansas City or St. Louis, it's your time to shine and score big. Download the Pick Six app, the easiest way to turn your baseball takes into cold, hard cash. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for two or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. No gimmicks, no weird rules. And for folks in the Show Me State, there's something special. New Pick Six players in Missouri can jump in for free. Download the app, sign up, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Don't miss out on this limited time offer, Missouri. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app right now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL. Register a new account and get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside, where a few bucks can turn into a bag, only on DraftKings Pick Six. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. Register new Pick Six account to receive $50 in bonus picks that expire in 7 days. Ends 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
Okay, Bernie, let's talk about a guy that you've been pretty high on as of late, and rightfully so. Smacked a 2-run homer left on left in Monday's 8-3 win over the Marlins. Is Nolan Gorman finally hitting his stride offensively?
He seems to be. I asked Ali Marmol that today on KMOX, and he's very high on Nolan Gorman. Listen, I know that Nolan Gorman's going to have to prove it over time, but if you go back to late May, like basically his last 51 games, and there were a couple of interruptions, but his last 51 games, he leads the Cardinals in weighted runs created plus. He's 37% above average. He leads them in slugging percentage, 500. He leads them in OPS. He just moved ahead of Contreras. He's second in he leads them in walk rate, which is a really good part of his game now. Over the last 51 games that he's played in, his walk rate's 12.4%. That's excellent. He's not swinging and missing as much. He's not striking out as much. He's not chasing as much. And he seems to have figured something out. If you look, even his on-base percentage because of the walks, he's second on the team since late May in that category as well. And, if you look at what else I got here, I'll leave it at that. I mean, his numbers across the board are like either first or second among Cardinals, and even batting average, he's fourth among Cardinals in batting average, but he's got a 253 average in his last 51 games. So for Nolan Gorman, that's outstanding. And so the other thing I'll throw in about him, and then I'll shut up, last night he hit his 5th home run against a left-handed pitcher this year. That's a new career high for him. He's never done that. And, he doesn't have a good batting average against left-handed pitchers, but he has a lot of impact against them. Like, for example, among the other left-handed hitters the Cardinals have, right? Nolan Gorman leads them with 5 home runs. He leads against lefty pitchers. He leads them in slugging percentage. He leads them in OPS. He's 12% average based on weighted runs created plus. So he's even moved ahead of Alec Burleson in that regard. And I'm a little mystified because it seems to me like he's not getting enough run on this, like where people are saying, wow, look at these numbers. These are not Nolan Gorman type numbers. Maybe he's figured it out. So listen, just like everybody else, when Nolan Gorman's going through these valleys and he's swinging and missing and he's striking out like crazy, I'm happy to write about, not happy, but I write about that. I never duck that. But I think when a guy's gone as well as he's gone and he's made so much progress as he is, I think we should take notice. Not you. I'm not lecturing you or anyone else. I'm using the we as in all of our people. We need to take more notice of this. I don't know. I think people have sort of made up their mind on him a little bit, and they maybe need to take a second look. He's doing some really good things. Now he's got to show that he can sustain it.
And that's the key, sustainability. And when you're looking at Nolan Gorman, I'll read some Baseball Savant stats. I'm glad you brought up the walk rate. That to me is a huge sign of that whatever changes he's made early in the season are paying off more consistently. And when you're talking about a player who is kind of redoing his entire swing, of course those things aren't going to come into force immediately, right? There's going to take some time. No one comes in and overhauls an entire swing and gets it right in 7 days. Sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 months. So when you look at Nolan Gorman, who has a 12.6 walk rate, that's in the 88th percentile of the sport right now. In 2024, that walk rate was 8.5%. So already a huge jump there. Another huge jump, the strikeout rate. We know that Nolan Gorman had a whiff and strikeout percentage that were bottom tier in baseball last year. I mean, that strikeout percentage was 37.6%. The whiff rate was 38.7. Very few players in all of baseball had worse marks than that. 2025 still not great, but big improvements. That whiff rate, is down to 32.4, and the strikeout rate's below 30 at 29. So for his player prototype, you mentioned the average. He's always going to have a little bit of swing and miss in his game. That's the trade-off for big power. He's hitting the ball more consistently. The strikeout rate has gone down. The walk rate has gone up, and it should translate to more results. I think a big misconception of this runway year is that by the end of the season, the Cardinals needed to know if they had superstars or not. That's not true. Right. At the end of the season, the Cardinals need to know, one, which players have taken the most strides and they can count on for 2026. B, which players did not take, had the opposite effect, took steps back, didn't progress, so they can adjust from there. They're going to have answers on players at the end of the season, regardless of what regardless of if they all were. Sorry, I think the national anthem's going off right now. It's very loud. No, it's in lineup. See, imagine if I would have done this out in the actual stadium. I can hear it in the media room.
I was going to suggest, should we sing? Should we sing the start? I know. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
At the end of the runway season, the Cardinals are going to have answers. They may not be like every single player is a superstar, but they have always done a very good job of developing supplementary players. Right. And can Nolan Gorman be that supplementary bat? I think so. And, It's going to take until the very end of the season for him to prove it. But we're definitely in a much better direction offensively for Nolan Gorman.
He's going to have to get better defensive. We all know that. So I don't even feel like, kind of emphasizing that because it's something we know. But I think the more reps he gets as third base, and I know Arenado may come back, but, Gorman has not started that many games in the big leagues at third base. And I think he's starting to settle in a little bit. But, yeah, I'm conceding that defense is an issue. I think, again, we all know that. But here's the long view. I think this ties into what you said. Here's the long view look at Nolan Gorman. The Cardinals are terribly short on power. They really are. Like if we go bet if I use at bats per home run, like their home run ratio, it would, if it holds what it is now and it's really, really bad, it would be their lowest home run rate since 2015, and then before that 2014. I mean, their isolated power is terrible ranking. Their home run rate less than a home run per game, and I know that you can't totally depend on home runs, and I'm not saying they should, but when you're not a good small ball team because you're not athletic, you don't steal bases, you don't run the bases well. They don't execute small ball stuff. I mean, look at their sacrifice bunt success rate. It's one of the worst in baseball. They have the second worst productive out percentage in the National League. They don't play small ball. They're not good at it. And I asked Ali about that 3 weeks ago, and he said that's the one thing that disappoints me the most. And he was taking it hard because he feels it's his responsibility. So if you can't play small ball really, really well, and you can't hit home runs, you're really at a disadvantage in the power game. I would suggest to people that have sort of thrown in the towel or thinking, oh, Gorman's never going to do anything. For an organization that is just so bereft of power, you can't take this lightly. This guy can make a difference. And I'm like you. No one is saying that this is a big superstar. But you need power in your lineup, especially against right-handed pitching. And he's even starting to show he can hit for power against lefties. He's confident. He's in a good place. His head's clear. Brent Brown's been good for him. And don't be so quick to anyone skeptical listening to us or watching us. And I think I can say we all love you. It's nothing personal. But don't be so quick to pull the plug on Nolan Gorman. I mean, he could make a tremendous difference for this team in the coming years, and he looks like he might be turning the corner.
He doesn't need to be the star. A lot of these guys don't need to be the star. Ivan Herrera doesn't need to be the star of the Cardinals. Alec Burleson doesn't need to be the star of the Cardinals, right? So does Nolan Gorman. They just need – the problem with the Cardinals right now, as we know, Bernie, is that they have so many of the same player. So if the Cardinals had, not a lot of DH, the exact opposite of what they have right now, they have an entire active roster of DHs. If Nolan Gorman was one of two DHs, we're not arguing about his future of the team or with the team. because there's a clear place for him as a supplementary piece. He's a bat-first, left-handed power hitter with some serious pop. Good teams have that. That's a really rare thing to find, especially a homegrown talent, because the Cardinals have a slew of players that can pretty much only DH or are best served as a DH, whether that's Ivan Herrera, whether that's Jordan Walker when he's going well, whether that's Alec Burleson, although he has taken some strides defensively. That kind of complicates things. Now, Nolan Gorman has to find a position defensively for this to work, and that's where things get messy. The Cardinals have to continue to force players to find somewhere to fit, even though it doesn't best fill their skill set because of their roster construction and the roster redundancy. So Nolan Gorman, if we're just looking at him based on his skill set and who he is as a player and what his strengths suggest he should be doing, the last 50 games or so, really out of the All-Star break, he has shown that. He has shown to be able to hit more consistently, hit for more power, cut the strikeout rate down, increase the walk rate, and again, hit left on left. That's exciting. The problem with this, as you and I have just talked about, Bernie, is that because there are so many different players on the Cardinals roster that best suit as a DH, there's not a lot of room for one of them. The supplementary pieces are all kind of combined as one, and it makes it really hard to differentiate who has the better hand going forward. And I think that's the thing the Cardinals will spend September trying to figure out.
And I want to throw something else in here. Even though Nolan Gorman has gone to hell and back with his swing and miss and his whiffs and terrible slumps, getting sent back down to the minors 2 or 3 times, whatever it is, despite all that, despite all the awful stuff that his career has been, these awful times, I should say, right? His major league career, he's got a .433 slugging percentage, and it's about .440 against right-handed pitching. And if you go by OPS plus, he's about 4 or 5% above average in terms of OPS plus since he's coming to the major leagues. And that's with all the nasty times he's gone through. So that should tell you something. And I also think too, Katie, I'm assuming, I would be shocked, and I'm sure you would be shocked or at least surprised, the Cardinals are going to have to clear some left-handed bats out of here. They just have to. The pieces don't fit. I can't believe Chaim Bloom will go through the winter without clearing 1 or 2 left-handed bats out of here.
He will do that. He will clear.
I just don't think Gorman should be one of them because he has something that none of those other guys can give you. Pure power, right? So anyway.
There it is. Snaps for Bernie. I honestly couldn't agree more with that. That I think is the most accurate part of this whole segment was, yes, there's a ton of lefty bats in this roster, as we know. But Nolan Gorman has his pop alone is something that, with respect to the players, the other players, none of those other left-handed bats can bring. So good job, Bernie. Crush the segment. We'll be right back with you, Cardinal Territory. First, a message from True Classic.
FT fans, you want to have confidence when you go out in public? Absolutely. We can't all wear a backwards hat like me, but you can get some True Classic fit shirts. It almost looks like, oh, wow, this shirt was tailored for me. Nope, it's every True Classic. This John is soft, it is smooth, and it makes you look a little jacked. I'm just saying.
And Kratz, you are jacked, and you are spot on. True Classic is the spot to go if someone's like, where do I get shirts? True Classic. The colors are fantastic. They've sold over 25 million shirts to more than 5 million customers. Their shirts just win. The feel, the tailored look, the price. We all wear True Classic on FT. I mean, Cam Maben literally can't say enough about them too next time we have Cam on. Hit up trueclassic.com/foul. Give it a shot. Upgrade your wardrobe and save on True Classic at trueclassic.com/foul. That's trueclassic.com/FOUL.
All right, Bernie, as we look to wrap up this episode, because I believe first pitch, Michael McGrevy taking the mound for St. Louis will be happening any minute. Is there something that you would like to see from McGrevy tonight as he makes another start?
No, he's sharp mentally and he's so tough-minded. I would just say do what you do because he knows how to pitch. He really knows how to pitch. And it's almost like he learns every inning he pitches in the major leagues. He's one of these guys that he takes something away from that. He's somebody who understands why something went wrong in an inning. He's very self-analytical. He's very self-aware, and he is extremely focused. So I just the more he pitches, the better he's going to get. And I really enjoy watching him. And and my conversations with Ali, that staff loves McGrevy. They love him because he's a bulldog. He's an absolute bulldog. and I'm not saying the other guys aren't, but there's something. He's got some bite. There's something tough about him that stands out, and I really appreciate the maturity levels off the charts too. It really is, because he. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was about to say I completely agree. What's impressed me the most about McGrevy is his demeanor. When you're a pitch to contact guy, and we've seen a lot of them over the last couple of years, you're going to get burned every now and then. Balls are going to get through. But with McGrevy, when that happens, the game doesn't pick up on him. It doesn't speed up. It doesn't get faster. He's just like, all right, well, that's kind of my game. Sometimes I'm going to get hit. A slow roller is going to get through. Let me attack the next guy. And he's unfazed. And that kind of maturity is not something that you can teach as soon as you get to the big leagues. That usually comes with experience. He's arrived here mainly because he had so much time to prep in AAA. But he's arrived here and he's had that demeanor. And that's what makes him, I think, with respect to the other pitchers, of course, a little bit more excitement when McGrevy takes the mound, even if his prototype is very similar to that of a Matthew Liberatore, of an Andre Palante, of a Miles Michaelis in terms of the ground ball rate. His demeanor, especially for such a young, unpolished starter, it's been the most fun thing for me to watch, at least for now.
Yeah, and we also have to look at the bigger picture, which is quickly. The Cardinals obviously need to rebuild their player development as far as developing starting pitching, okay? And I think they're off to a good start because I think Quinn Matthews will be a good pitcher. I'm not talking about this year. Hold on. Here, am I back? Am I back? No, I'll be quick. Quinn Matthews is definitely in the picture. He's got a lot of talent. Liam Doyle's got a lot of talent. There's a couple other guys that are dealing with injuries who have a lot of talent. There's either some guys that are lower levels that are making a move up. So when we talk about Michael McGrevy, because I've heard this from fans a lot, we've heard like, well, okay, nice kid and all that, but he's not a guy that you build your rotation around. He's not a number one or number two. Nobody's saying that he is. But right. if some of these other young guys are what, look at the independent talent evaluators, not us. Look at Baseball America. Look at MLB Pipeline, whatever. Keith Law. If you build your rotation and he's a back end starter, you're going to have a really good rotation if he's your fourth or fifth guy, right?
Exactly.
So in other words, we understand where he fits. We're not overhyping him, but right now he's fun to watch because you can see a future and you can see a guy that he just gets it. Nothing flaky about it.
Yeah, big. We are, as we had Cardinal Territory loyal listeners know, big Michael McGrevy enthusiasts on this show. We're also big enthusiasts for, I don't know, maybe a second Cardinals win. Off to a good start. Lars Nootbaar has singled to lead off this ball game that I need to go get to and watch. So for Bernie, I'm Katie. Thanks as always for watching Cardinal Territory. We'll be back with you later in the week. I will not be on the Tampa trip. I will finish up with Miami. So we'll be covering from home. Looking forward to breaking it all down and hopefully get a series win here in Miami. Bernie, thanks as always. We'll talk soon, guys.
See you, Katie.